how can we practically, on a practical level, make a profound shift within ourselves in terms of how we see ourselves on this planet at a cosmic scale, not an Earth scale, not a galactic scale, but a universal cosmic scale, something that is not esoteric, something that is actually real. Greetings everyone. So in this video, I want to talk about how we can make a powerful paradigm shift in terms of our place in this universe in a way that we bring our cosmic selves into our physical bodies here. And the reason I want to do this is because I think we spend too much time processing the events around us on this planet through what I call an Earth-based point of view. So it's kind of like as human beings, we have this filter over our consciousness that is comprised of, all the experiences that we've had all of our lives, everything we've been taught, just the basic paradigm that's been set up on this planet by the controllers of this planet. So even if we don't agree with what's going on or we don't like what's going on, we still have this Earth-based filter through which we try to process all of the things happening on Earth. So I always talk, if you've been following me, I always talk about having a cosmic perspective on all of this, what I call an extraterrestrial perspective, which means stepping back away from the Earth and seeing things from a much broader range of view, if you will. How do we do that? Because that involves some critical thinking skills, right? It involves an upgrade of our critical thinking skills because we need to have critical thinking skills at a cosmic level of experience, not just Earth. And here's the thing, when it comes to planet Earth and all of the schooling that all of us have been through, and many of us are going through right now as younger people, the controllers are literally trying to destroy our ability to think critically at all. So this really has everything to do with what is our frame of reference when we look at all of the goings on this planet Earth? What are our reference points? What reference points are we using? So I've been thinking about this a lot all week long, thinking about all of this stuff and thinking, so how can we practically, on a practical level, make a profound shift within ourselves in terms of how we see ourselves on this planet at a cosmic scale, not an Earth scale, not a galactic scale, but a universal cosmic scale, something that is not esoteric, something that is actually real. I spontaneously came up with this interesting train of thought that I'm going to share with you all in case you want to try this on for yourself and see if it doesn't produce an amazing shift in your consciousness. So I started off thinking about there's so many stories of friendly, benevolent extraterrestrials who are helping us, but it's always completely invisible, right? Like we never get to see any of these things happening, yet we're told that this is happening all over the place. It's happening all the time. There are thousands and thousands of benevolent ETs out there in space who are supposedly watching us. Now, I don't know where all of these stories originate. That's not really the point. The point is, let's just take a look at what that means. I started to look at this from a cosmic perspective. I started to look at this way of thinking from a cosmic perspective, and suddenly my entire perspective completely changed. Some questions came to mind. They say that they're all throughout our solar system and that they battle the bad guys from space. Apparently, they have battles all over the place on Mars, on the moon, and maybe on other planets too. Now, I don't know these guys, these extraterrestrials. I don't know who they are. I only know what I hear, okay? But, I think maybe they're just a little bit unreasonable if we look at all of this from a cosmic perspective. And I'll explain to you what I mean by that in just a minute. Just hear me out, because when I get to the end of this whole little process, you might have an opportunity to experience a huge, huge shift in terms of how you perceive yourself in the universe and on this planet. So they say they're doing battle underground on this planet, and I think I've heard maybe also in Antarctica. They say that they can't help us on the surface of this planet because we are an evolving civilization and they can't intervene. But there's a couple of small issues with that. How is fighting underground, on the moon, and other places around the solar system and whatnot, how is that not intervention? They're intervening plenty in secret. They say that they're even fighting with our soldiers who are Earth people. Apparently, some say they've been interacting with the controllers and they're having secret meetings with prominent people. They say they're rescuing people from underground. They say that they can't intervene, but that's all they're doing. They just say that we can't see any of it. Now, from what I've heard, they say that their answer to that is that it would cause too much trauma if we could actually see their intervention. And I might actually have agreed with that prior to 2020, but since 2020, we've crossed a line, and I don't think that argument is really valid anymore. There comes a point when you see a village being burned down and destroyed that you can no longer say, oh, well, let's not go in there because that would be too traumatic. See, there's a point where that kind of rationale becomes just a little bit ridiculous. Now, here's my second point with this non-intervention reasoning. They also say that it's because we are an evolving civilization and they can't interfere. Have they noticed that collectively we're not evolving anymore? We're being absolutely crushed. And this is only the beginning of that agenda that is designed specifically by these controllers to crush our human civilization. I'm getting to a point where I'm finding this non-intervention thing to be really disturbing at this point. These are benevolent ETs, right? And they're saying they're so concerned about our evolution, yet they're still not doing anything where all the problems are to protect it or preserve it, to protect and preserve our ability to evolve when it's clearly being taken apart. And I mean, some say they have thousands of ships parked in our solar system. And I'm like, okay, well, what for exactly? We are not like some planetary version of the Roman Colosseum where a whole bunch of spectators watch people get slaughtered, killed, tortured, or whatever went on in that Colosseum. Now, in my opinion, we are absolutely 100% ready for extraterrestrial contact. I mean, is anybody serious at this point that we're not ready? Honestly, I mean, think about it. There are sightings all over the world. There are people that have had ET contact worldwide, millions and millions of people for who knows how long, certainly for decades. But here's the main reason that I say we are definitely ready. There could be nothing as bad about extraterrestrial contact from benevolent extraterrestrials, and I emphasize benevolent. There could be nothing about that could possibly be worse than what is going on now on this planet Earth. Now, I'm not saying I know who these ETs are. I'm not saying this is not really about the ETs. I don't even know if they're really there or not. I'm not here to debate that. That is not my point at all. My point is to show how we can take a very different position about who we are in this universe on our planet Earth. And I think we need to, because these controllers are definitely planning to go out in space. I think they're already out in space. I think they're already interacting with ETs. I think that's kind of obvious. And we need to stop acting like we're such victims of these guys. Like, oh, we're so victimized and please help us and please tell us what to do, because it's not working. How many years have people been saying, please help us, yet the help is not forthcoming, is it? It's not forthcoming. So I'm suggesting maybe we need to grow up a little bit as cosmic beings. Maybe we Earth beings need to grow up and realize, now this is going to sound funny, but I'm going to say it anyway. We can't keep taking this attitude that about I'm only speaking about benevolent extraterrestrials. I am no way talking about the bad guys. So forget that. That's off the table. These are just the ones that are peaceful and nice and say they want to help. Okay. We probably need to stop with I think it's a subconscious belief. I don't think it's really conscious, but like this subconscious belief or positioning that, oh, well, because they're up in the sky, they're so much smarter than we are. We're not up in the sky. We're down here. So we couldn't possibly be as smart as they are. That's not true, you guys. We're not stupid. We have brains. We have insight. We have profound wisdom. We are actually a lot smarter than we give ourselves credit for. So my suggestion is, and this is where you can experience a profound paradigm shift. Let's speak like adults in the cosmos. Let's stop lying to ourselves that we're just so dumb. We don't know anything. We can't figure anything out. And we just need to take, whatever crumbs are being thrown at us in terms of whatever might be out there. I don't know. See, the way I look at things on this planet is I look at trajectories. And trajectories are not that difficult to perceive. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're driving in your car, and as you're going down a residential street, and you notice further down the road, you see a child with a ball. And the child, this is a really, really young child, right? And they throw their ball up in the air and it lands in the street, and you watch that child running to get their ball out of the street as your car is headed right for that child. What do? You stop the car, right? Because you see the trajectory. You see that if that car keeps going, you're going to hit the child. That's how trajectories work. Trajectories are such that you can see where things are going before they get there, and you can either intervene, you can stop it, you can change direction. You know how it works, right? We are past the time for intervention. Okay, there's a trajectory happening here. I talk about it all the time if you've been following me, right? It's all out in the open. It's easy to see. They're planning to burn down the whole civilization. And if you're going to intervene, now is the time. Actually, several years ago was probably the best time. So if you are a benevolent extraterrestrial and you see planet Earth and you say to yourself, I'm wholly in support of these people's evolution. Their evolution means everything to us because it matters in the greater scheme of things. It matters in the galactic scheme of things, or whatever your perspective is. And do you really treasure those people's ability to evolve, or are you just talking about it? So I am no longer buying this idea that planet Earth needs to have a bubble of isolation around it because we are a so-called evolving civilization. I'm just not buying that anymore. Okay, we don't need a bubble of isolation around us. And we actually can stand up inside of ourselves. And regardless about the ETs or not ETs, that's not my point. My point is, if you can understand what I'm saying, you will start to experience a shift in your consciousness that is very, very empowering. See, the bubble of isolation around planet Earth just doesn't add up. If you're talking about benevolent extraterrestrials, it doesn't add up. You know why it doesn't add up? Because we share the same space. We share this solar system. We share this galaxy. We share this universe with all the other beings who occupy it. It's a shared space. Where is it written that we don't get to have a voice? See, this is the problem that I have with disclosure. The problem I have with disclosure is we have decided that we don't have a voice, and only the people in charge have a voice. And it's so easy to project that into the extraterrestrial universe as well and say, well, there's always people in charge, so there must be ETs in charge too. So we just have to wait for somebody in charge to do something about this, whether it's people on planet Earth, whether it's extraterrestrials out in space. There's always got to be somebody in charge of us poor, ignorant humans who are just victims of all of this entire situation. Now, I'm not saying that I'm asking them to intervene, because I'm actually not. And you want to know why? Because to me, if you can't see the trajectory of evolution on this planet, if you haven't been able to see the way things are going on this planet up until this moment in time, I don't think you're the guys I want intervening here, because you're kind of late. You're kind of late to the party. This is not about, we need to communicate with the benevolent ETs. We need to ask them to save us or ask them to rescue us. We don't need to do that, because if they're capable of doing that, they're perfectly capable of seeing that for themselves and acting on that observation. It shouldn't require us to get on our knees and beg for such a thing, and we don't need to anyway. My larger point in all of this is that I really think this idea that planet Earth needs to be isolated, this idea needs to end on all sides. The bad guy side, the so-called good guy side, all sides, it just needs to end. Because as long as we buy into the belief that Earth needs to be isolated, it's going to be very difficult for us to perceive and experience ourselves as cosmic beings who are an equal part of this universe. So I really wanted to just present this as more of a mental exercise in terms of how we see ourselves in the universe, how we see ourselves in relationship to the universe, because I really think that we have been trained by these controllers to be too much on our knees about all of this. See, if we take a cosmic perspective about our physical presence on this planet in relationship to whatever physical extraterrestrials are out there, then that is going to give us strength, and that's going to open our intelligence, open our consciousness, and open our minds to a more expanded, more metaphysical view of all of this. And that's what we need if we're going to be empowered and be able to continue to stay on a path of evolution and on a path of ascension. Now, let's talk about the intervention that actually is happening for real. If you are a starseed, or if you consider yourself to be a light worker, that's an intervention, okay? That means that you are standing on this planet incarnate with the intention of supporting the evolution of this humanity, of supporting the evolution of this civilization. You've actually incarnated here to support this situation. Now, the biggest intervention of all is the universe itself, because the universe is the originating force behind that ascension light that is awakening people from within, and that's what a spiritual awakening is. Those of us who are incarnate here specifically for the purpose of supporting this ascension, supporting human evolution, and doing whatever we can to support humanity's ability to continue on a path of evolution, that's a physical intervention, you all. That's a very physical intervention. So there couldn't possibly be some rule that says no intervention allowed, because there's intervention happening in a lot of different ways. And that's a very physical way that it's happening. So I think it's actually very helpful and very empowering for us to recognize that we ourselves actually exist as an intervention in this situation. Our focus can be on what we can actually do, why we're here, and what are the forces that we have to work with. And that's precisely why we want to take a cosmic perspective. We want to stand up and say, have a voice. And we have a right to have a voice in the extraterrestrial universe. And by taking that position, you will find yourself living a very purposeful life, a very high vibrational life, and it just gives meaning to your entire existence here on this planet Earth. So with that said, let's talk about the two most important things for those of us who are here as the real intervention to focus our attention and our energy on. Number one is we want to always be mindful of the unfolding situation on this planet, because we're here for a specific reason. We're here to support ascension and evolution. in the midst of a massive alien attack on planet Earth. That's what we're in the middle of. This very prominent person who you would know if I mentioned his name, but I will not, because if I mention it here, I will get in trouble. So I guess maybe you can figure it out or whatever. But anyway, this very prominent person literally said publicly that he thinks aliens are behind everything going on Earth. He said that even, these people in charge might seem kind of reptilian. He said, I'm not saying they're reptilian, they just seem kind of reptilian. And then let me check, because I wrote something down. Oh yes, he said, this is an off-world attack on our planet. He was talking about all the stuff the controllers are doing, all the things that we hear in the news. And he said, this is an off-world attack. He said that like 2 or 3 times. And then he said that this is way too well orchestrated to be originating with humans on this planet. I've been saying this for like 20 or 30 years. Like, there's no way humans are able to orchestrate something this coordinated worldwide in terms of all the stuff, that I've talked about before, not just the last 2 or 3 years, but ever since the whole Industrial Revolution. I mean, humans have a tough time just having a meeting together, like with maybe 10 people. So to orchestrate what's been done on this planet worldwide, I've always felt there's no way this originates from planet Earth. So we want to be mindful of how that attack is unfolding, yet not involved with it. We don't want to get our consciousness drawn into it. We just want to be the observers so that we are living up to our purpose here. And this really means stepping into our higher level of intelligence, our cosmic intelligence. Are you starting to get a feel for what I'm talking about? Like, we're on this planet, but it doesn't mean that we have to have our only reference points be all of the craziness unfolding here. We can have a cosmic reference point, remember who we are, remember why we're here, and say, okay, we're here on Earth. There's a really crazy situation going on. Let's be aware of what it is so that we know how to navigate through this situation appropriately with purpose while preserving our consciousness and the entire reason that we're even here at all. So that's the first thing. And the second thing we want to be very mindful about is the condition of our own consciousness. How can we strengthen ourselves? Because we all incarnate on this planet, right? And we're going to be dealing with all the same limitations that everyone else here is dealing with, the ego and the physical finite nature of the body and the fear-based reactions that come from our reptilian part of our brain, right? So we're dealing with all that stuff. So what do we do as the cosmic beings that we are? Well, what we want to do is we want to be mindful of the condition of our energy, our consciousness, and our physicality. And we want to recognize that it's actually very useful for us to continuously raise the level of those 3 things. Because the more that we do that for ourselves, the brighter our light shines, the more powerful our frequency becomes, and most importantly, we exist as a resonating field of energy, as a resonating force of nature that has the potential to align the energy of those around us. So let's just get centered for a moment and talk about the circumstances that we find ourselves in and where that is right now. Let's observe as cosmic beings. Let's not observe as victimized Earth people, okay? Because that's just totally not who we are. The controllers have a distinct plan for us that started in 2020 and is slated to end in 2030. We are now almost 3 years into their execution of that plan. Clearly, they had this whole plan set up long before they pressed the start button in 2020. And I'd say it's probably a good guess that they have another diabolical blueprint ready to unfold starting in 2031. Now, so far, we have seen the execution of 3 distinct phases of this plan. The first phase was to create massive trauma and disassociation with the 2 years of lockdowns, that health issue, And you know that sharp thing that we're not supposed to talk about? That phase was partly designed to create immense trauma and confusion on a massive planetary scale so that we would completely lose our bearings as a society and lose all hope with no way of escape. And then almost immediately after that 2-year period, we were hit with the next phase, which I will call the intentional dismantling of our foundational human identity. So the first phase was to dismantle our human society, and the second phase that we're in right now is to dismantle our human identity. This phase is intended to neuter us as biological beings and creators who possess the power of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. The controllers are removing all references to man and woman, male and female, and boys and girls. And just in case we're confused by this, well, they're just encouraging people to remove their sex organs. So, there's no mistake that a person might actually have a biological gender. And the third phase is the one we are entering into right now. This is the phase of driving us into survival so that all of our energy will be drained by fear about how to stay alive. They are doing this by ruining the 4 things that comprise the essential support systems that underpin our entire civilization. Those things are energy, food, transportation, and water. And they are conveniently using war and this climate issue to justify their destruction. And I'm going to bet that at some point I'm probably going to have to refer to that climate thing as the weather issue, because I'm pretty sure that word is also going to become taboo. So these are basically the 3 phases of the controller's wondrous plan of destruction that we are dealing with so far. Dismantle our human society, dismantle our human identity, and then drive us deep into survival where we struggle to even stay alive. They're just so charming, aren't they? So once we understand those 3 main phases of their plan, slated to end in 2030, which is just phase 1 of their plan, we of course want to know, well, why? Why are they doing this? What is the purpose? Are they just crazy, or is there a reason for this? Now, some of these guys really are just crazy, for sure. But the bigger plan is all about, as you probably know, transhumanism. All of this dismantling is what they deem necessary to transfer biological human beings into AI, into some digitized version of some fake version of a human being. A lot of these surface level controllers don't understand that. To them, it's just about power and all this really weird neurotic stuff, right? But the motivation, the deeper motivation behind it, and this is where you get into the truth that this really is an alien assault on this planet. It's really about transitioning human beings from biological to synthetic AI entities. And that process is all happening on a linear timeline. And I may be talking about the timeline split again in the not too distant future in another video, but that's sort of our past, present, future trajectory, which is the one that our physical bodies exist on. So we are physically on a timeline, but yet at the same time, because we're infinite beings, we also exist in the now. Now, I also think it's very important that we practice more and more centering our consciousness in the now. Because see, we can be in the now and also in time simultaneously, because we can do that. That's what you can do when you understand that you are a cosmic being. So here's how I suggest we handle where we are right now. The goal is to stay on our ascension path and not lose our way. So the first thing has to do with how you see yourself. I strongly recommend that you avoid the temptation to see yourself as a victim. Instead, take some time every morning, every day to reinforce your humanness. You are a multidimensional cosmic creator. You are intelligent, and you probably have many unused and unexplored wonderful faculties right within you. These are faculties that are designed to connect you with the larger evolving universe. They are creative faculties designed to give you the power to create miracles in your life. Maybe you haven't used these faculties. Maybe you don't even know what they are. But that doesn't mean they're not there. It just means that you were probably distracted by school, society, and religion all your life, and no one ever bothered to teach you about such things. So you can think about this as a time to begin an inner exploration and start to explore the many multidimensional faculties that you already naturally possess. And then you can start to awaken some new knowledge that comes from right within yourself. And do whatever you can to make your life as good as you possibly can. That way you are living from a proactive place, which will protect you from having to be reactive to all of the controller's insanity. You want to build your strength and build your energy. Look at it this way. If you make your positive, high vibrational energy, your awakening consciousness, and your light so strong, you become like a tree with very deep roots in reality. And a tree that has very deep roots never gets blown over by the storm, right? Always, always remember your purpose here. Remember your cosmic purpose. Remember that you are a cosmic being. We all stand on this planet. We are a part of this universe. This idea that we should be isolated needs to end. And you are allowed to have a voice in what your say is about what's going on this planet at an extraterrestrial level. So let me just complete this by talking about the two things that I said are the most important for us to focus on and how those two things work together. So when we see the controllers executing a part of their plan, for example, right now they're trying to completely shred our human identity, our natural identity as biological human beings. They're just completely shredding that, right? So when we see them doing that, as the cosmic beings that we are, we don't have to freak out. We don't have to like, oh my God, be all intimidated. Instead, we just look at it and go, yeah, I totally get what you're doing. I totally know why you're doing it. It makes complete sense given your mindset and your goal. Okay, I mean, we can look at it like that. And then the action we want to take is to refuse to go and become a lighthouse of the truth of who you are as a human being. A lighthouse that holds those principles of your human self intact, make it even stronger. See, you don't have to argue with these people. That's the great thing. You don't have to argue with them because they're kind of nuts, right? It's so much more effective. It's so much more peaceful. It's so much more efficient if you just are the power and the strength that can't be moved at all by any of their insanity. And likewise, now that we see that they're tearing apart the underpinnings of civilization, the support systems of civilization, and it's really important to look at the trajectory and say, okay, I think I see where you're going with this, and I think I know why you're going this direction. It might mean that you need to take some kind of physical proactive steps to protect yourself in some particular way. And, you know, if that seems like really hard and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what I'm going to do, because that's what they want to drive us into. And this is why I always say we need to be very metaphysical in how we approach this. That's when you want to start applying things like the law of attraction, connecting with the universe, manifestation, receiving higher guidance from your inner being. Be open to miracles, be open to synchronicities. So when you see that they're on the verge of doing something truly diabolical, which I think they are right now in various parts of the world, that should be a signal, okay, I need to up-level my consciousness even more. I need to start really practicing the art of manifestation. I need to do all of these kinds of expansive, metaphysical, evolutionary things in my consciousness, in my life, that I can utilize those faculties to be able to physically navigate through whatever it is they have coming next. So I hope you found this video to be thought-provoking, and I also hope you found a few nuggets of ideas that are empowering for you. And if so, please give this video a thumbs up and share it out with anyone else who you think would be interested in some similar ideas for themselves. And be sure to subscribe if you haven't already and hit that notification bell because I am here every Tuesday with all new videos. And with that, I'm sending you so much love, light, and high vibrational energy. Have a beautiful day, my friends. Namaste.